Tonight, I'd like to share with you an idea that will help you generate tax credits and at the same time feel good about helping others. You know, Winston Churchill once said that we make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give. And it is a wonderful sentiment. And in this spirit, I'm presenting to you a new program which allows you to maximize your charitable giving potential. It's been made possible through an exclusive alliance with Quadrus Investment Services and the Strategic Charitable Giving Foundation. And I want to show you how it works. Now, this slide illustrates a person's overall financial plan. First, we build the base of financial independence. And this is where we accumulate our wealth. Things like our home or RSPs and other assets that we build over our lifetime to allow us to live a comfortable and secure life. The next level is when we look at our family legacy. We've spent our whole life accumulating all these assets, and we'd like to know that after we're gone, that most of what's left over will be efficiently passed on to our families and our beneficiaries. And it usually involves insurance and estate planning. Eventually, at the final and top level of our financial planning is our social legacy. And eventually, this becomes the most important stage to all of us. And essentially, it's where we ask ourselves, how do we want to be remembered? And the scariest part of facing our mortality is that the idea that we're going to be forgotten someday. And unfortunately, for most of us, that's exactly what's going to happen. So I just want to try an exercise here, just by a show of hands. How many people here know the first name of their grandfather? Okay, now those that have their hands up, keep your hands up. How many of you know the name of your great-grandfather? And a lot less. How about your great-great-grandfather? I think you can see what I mean. People get forgotten over time. It's just the way it is. Now, what is a social legacy? Social legacy is having an impact on your community in such a way that you're going to be remembered, and more importantly, making sure that you're going to make a difference and that your presence here has made a difference for generations to come, not just today. Now, before we move forward, I think one of the first questions we need to ask ourselves is what's the difference between philanthropy and a donation? And I think it's similar to that old proverb, if you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day, and if you teach that man to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. Teaching him to fish, well, that's philanthropy. And giving him a fish, that's a donation. Now, philanthropy, it takes a long-term approach. It asks, how can I make a difference not just today, but 5, 10, and even 50 years from now? A donation, on the other hand, is intermittent. Provides you immediate assistance, but it rarely provides any long-term lasting solutions. And a donation doesn't create any ongoing relationship either. You give the man a fish or you give the charity a check, and the relationship ends right there. Philanthropy, on the other hand, requires ongoing monitoring and assessment. So I guess you could say that basically donating is an action, while philanthropy is truly a lifestyle. Now, previously there was very few options, primarily setting up a private foundation or making a donation. The problem with private foundations is they can be very costly because they require lawyers, auditors, tax specialists, and so on. They're also very time-consuming, and you'd likely need to sit on a board of directors to have any kind of control. You'd have to attend several meetings, monitor all the charities receiving the grants as well. And the complexity of private foundations can be very intimidating for most of us. So donating, it just seems so much easier, but you have absolutely no control. You write a check to your favorite charity, and that's the end of the relationship. And you have absolutely no idea what's being done with the money. And a good example of this is that most of us, I'm sure, have bought those $100 tickets for hospital draws. And we were looking at some of the statistics, and we just happened to pull out the 2010 heart and stroke lottery statistics. And their expenses that particular year were more than 70%. So that meant for every $100 you actually put towards that charity, only $30 only went to supporting them. So donations, you know, they also might not meet your long-term philanthropic goals either. I mean, there's some satisfaction in having known that you've donated to a good cause, but you might be wondering later if that donation makes any lasting effect. And donations, they just don't feel permanent. And where this is particularly relevant is in many churches. Younger generations might have different priorities, putting less emphasis on contributions to the church or even attending. And many congregations are shrinking as older members pass away and fewer people are joining. Who's going to replace the donations that you're making today when you're gone and you're no longer able to make them? Many people are also concerned that contributions that are dwindling may cause their churches not to even be there for the future generations to enjoy. So clearly, achieving a philanthropic goal may require an innovative philanthropy solution. And I think that solution just might be our donor-advised funds. It allows you to incorporate your philanthropy with your personal financial plan, and it's established within a charitable foundation, so you get that foundation-like experience without the cost and complexity, and you still can be involved as much or as little as you like. Now, our charitable giving program gives you a charitable legacy for perpetuity. It gives you control, it gives you that private foundation experience, and it gives you tax advantages. Now, leaving a legacy means that you're making a long-term commitment to an organization or charity that's important to you. And that legacy program allows for ongoing giving so that you or someone else can add to that account after it's been established at any time. You also get to name your fund, whether it's the John Doe Memorial Fund or the Jane Doe Animal Rescue Fund. You get to choose the name that's meaningful to you. And when the charities you choose get a check with the fund name on it, every year you can be certain that you're going to be remembered. And if you prefer, you can even make the donations anonymously. You also get to name a successor. And this is a great way to get your family involved, instilling the same values in your children and even your grandchildren that you yourself have. And involving them lets them know how important things are to you. And telling them that they're going to be making the decisions on your behalf when you no longer can is going to encourage them to feel a sense of responsibility to these favorite organizations. You might be leaving behind not only perpetual donations to these organizations, but also a source of perpetual family pride. Now, this next chart demonstrates a $500,000 donation that was put into the Legacy Charitable Giving Program instead of being donated directly to the charity. Now, if you take a look at the blue line, it shows the value of the donor-advised fund, and the purple line represents the total cumulative donations made to the organization selected. If you look at the far end of the chart, in this example, the donor-advised fund has grown to more than $900,000, and the total cumulative gifts so far is over $1.2 million. And even after that, the fund will continue to donate in perpetuity. Now, when we talk about maintaining control, you get to recommend the charities. And as long as the grants meet the minimum, you can choose as many charities as you like, and they can be switched as often as you want. You can choose to be asked every year where you want the donations to go, or you can designate a charity to automatically receive them. And of course, this designation can be changed at any time. You get to recommend how your donor-advised fund is going to be invested, how much risk to take, and what type of investments you want to use. So as you can see, it makes philanthropy flexible and simple while continuing to give in perpetuity just the way you want it to. You get all the enjoyment of having your own private foundation without all the cumbersome hassles. Now, the Strategic Charitable Giving Foundation handles all the administration, and your gift grows in the professionally managed investment portfolio. Any donations you make to the private foundation fund receive immediate tax credits. And furthermore, if you have any publicly traded securities that have a large capital gain on them, and you're considering making a donation, by donating the securities instead of cash, there's no taxable gain, but you still receive the full tax credit. Now, I briefly want to go over a slide to show you how it works, but I don't want to go into too much detail because it depends on your personal situation. If it applies to you, we really should sit down and discuss the actual numbers. And if it doesn't, I don't want to bore you. Now, if you take a look at scenario number one, an investor decided to donate $100,000, and he liquidates $100,000 of securities with an adjusted cost basis of $60,000, which means there's going to be a $40,000 capital gain. Now, according to current tax rules, capital gains are only 50% taxable, so the taxable gain in this case is $20,000. Based on the highest marginal tax rate, the tax payable in this situation will be $9,280. The investor receives a tax refund for the $100,000 donation of $46,400, and the net cash back to that donor is $37,120. Now, if you take a look at scenario two, the only difference is the investor decided to donate the securities directly instead of liquidating them. And as you can see, the adjusted cost base and capital gain are exactly the same, but the taxable gains in this situation is zero. Therefore, the tax paid on capital gains is also going to be zero. The tax refund is the same, so the total cash back to the donor is now going to be $46,400. And that's a pretty big difference for essentially doing exactly the same thing. And now that you understand a little bit about how the program works, this is how you can get started. First, you got to plan for a legacy. Who do you want to help? How much do you want to donate? And so on. Make a donation. Now that you've decided to set up a plan, you need to decide where the donation is going to come from and actually make that donation. You need to name your account. This can be anything. How do you want your fund to be identified? And you're going to want to monitor your account. And that's why you'll receive semi-annual statements to let you know all the details of your account, how it's been performing, and what grants have been made and to what charities. Then you need to make grants to those charities. This is why you set up the account in the first place. So you get to choose the charities that your donor-advised fund is going to help. You can add to the program whenever you like. Once it's open, anybody can add to this plan as long as it meets the minimum requirements. And continuing with the successor. This is where you name that person or persons that you want to make the decisions after you're gone. Now, to establish a donor-advised fund, the minimum initial deposit is $25,000. And any subsequent donations must be a minimum of $5,000. You can name as many charities to receive a grant as you like, although the minimum grant's got to be $500. And eligible assets for donation include cash, most publicly traded securities, mutual funds, life insurance policies, and segregated funds. Now, life insurance is what really makes this program so accessible to almost anyone. And I want to go over an example with you in just a moment. Now, the investment options in this plan are the Moderate Folio Fund, the Balanced Folio Fund, the Mackenzie Maxim Canadian Balance Fund, the London Capital Income Plus Fund, and the London Capital Diversified Income Fund. And the foundation fees are 1% on the first $500,000, 0.85% on the next million, 0.75 on the million after that, and it's negotiable after 2.5 million. Now, even the most efficient charities out there generally have an administration cost of between 5 and 15%. So to be able to even consider running your own charitable foundation for 1% or less is unheard of. Also of note is when you're using life insurance, there's no fees paid or accumulated until the death benefit is actually paid out. Now, I know I bombarded you with a lot of information, so I want to very quickly go over an example to show you just how the program works in a real-world situation, using our old friends John and Jane Doe. Now, John is a 30-year-old non-smoker, and his wife Jane, also 30-year-old non-smoker, would like to set up a charitable foundation for the benefit of their church. So they purchased a $250,000 universal life policy payable on the death of the second insured, and it's going to cost them about $85 a month. Now, since we obviously don't know how long they're going to live, for this illustration, we're going to use Stats Canada's average lifespan. Now, based on Statistic Canada's average lifespan, Jane will have passed away in 52 years. Over that period of time, she would have received more than $53,000 in charitable tax receipts. The insurance is going to make a $250,000 donation to the John and Jane Memorial Fund. And each year, the church is going to receive a check for 4% of the account value from the John and Jane Memorial Fund. And that's going to represent $10,000 in the first year alone. Now, based on a 6% rate of return, here's the grant amount that John and Jane's church is going to receive. As I said earlier, $10,000 in the first year. But by the 50th year, the total grants have accumulated to more than $611,000, and the account value has grown to more than $369,000. Their original donation of just over $53,000 has added up to just under $1 million and will continue to give in perpetuity. Obviously, John and Jane have been able to use the program to look after the long-term welfare of their church and to ensure that they'll always be remembered. Now, that pretty much sums up how the Legacy Charitable Giving Program works. And it's a lot of information to take in. And I'm sure you're going to have many questions. But if any of you or anyone you know are interested in setting up a lasting legacy or finding out more about it, I would really appreciate if you call our office to set up an appointment, and we'd be really happy to help. And you know, at Langlois Financial Services, we're always happy to help in any way we can. And that brings me to the final topic, and that's how we at Langlois Financial Services strive to be the best in the financial industry with our total commitment to all of you. At Langlois Financial, we always want to meet with you at least once a year, face-to-face, at a time and place that's convenient for you. And if you need to meet with us more often, or you want to speak to us, all you have to do is call our office, and we will meet with you as often as necessary to make you feel comfortable with your personal plan. We also want to make it easy for you to contact us. And that's why if you call our office from 8:30 in the morning until 5 p.m. Monday to Friday, and until 8 p.m. on Mondays and Wednesdays, you're not going to get a recording asking you to call back. You're going to get a live, friendly voice that's there to help you with whatever questions you might have. We also like to take it a step further because we want you to know that we're available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And if you need us at any time, Saturday morning, Sunday night, it doesn't matter, You can call our cell phone numbers, which are on all our advisors' cards, and we'll be there to help you at that moment. We also boast our user-friendly website, and we're always working on that, and we're very proud of it. And some of the features include our LFS reports, which are quarterly articles on a wide range of topics that we think are very relevant and important to each and every one of you. We also provide market updates from some of the top investment firms around Canada, and we want to make sure you get the top type of advice. And also, if you're looking at your accounts from our website, all you have to do is give our office a call. We'll set you up with a PIN number, and away you go. You can take a look at your accounts every day if you like. We also like to send occasional emails with information that we believe is important, and we don't want you to miss that information. And that's why, if you take a look in your folders tonight before you leave, there's a contact information sheet. And if you would please kindly complete it for us and turn it into one of my staff members before you leave, we'll make sure that all your information is accurate and up to date so you don't miss the information that we'd like to share with you. Now, as you know, we have many client events throughout the year, and some of them, like this evening's, are educational to help you keep you informed, help you better understand what's going on out there. And that's why we have great people like Fred here to share that information with you. We also have our RSP weekends, where during the RSP season, we have our coffee and donut weekends. And if you book an appointment at our office for one of these specified dates, and this year it's going to be January 19th and 20th and February 16th and 17th, 2013, you're going to be treated to donuts and coffee, and you even get to keep the coffee mug. You'll also be invited to pick a prize from our treasure chest. You might win something really special, and you might win something small, but you never leave empty-handed, and we always have a good time. And I would also say that if you're planning to come to one of these weekends, please book soon, because it's incredible how quickly people book. They just don't want to miss their donut. So, you laugh, but very true. We also have social events throughout the year, and our next one is our Referral Appreciation event, and it takes place on Saturday, November the 24th, when Langlois Financial Services proudly presents the Midtown Men live at the Rose Theatre. Now, this event includes dinner, show tickets, and personal reserved parking inside the theater, and for some of you, some of the lucky attendees, a meet and greet with the personal performers. Now, how do you make it to this event? It's very simple. If you've referred a client to us in the last 12 months, you're going to be invited to join us for this beautiful event. It's just our way of saying thank you to you for supporting us all. Now, I've always mentioned in the past there's only two ways that our business can continue to grow. And one is that if you need a product or service that we offer, that you give us that chance to help you. And secondly, if you know people that could use our help, please tell them who we are, because this way, not only are you helping us, but you're making sure that people that are important to you are getting the same care that you've been receiving over the last few years. Now, also, I'd like to add as a side note, is that we always enjoy receiving the letters and emails that we get from you, telling us how happy you are with the services and advice that you receive from Langlois Financial. And if you would include your permission to post them on our website, we'd love to add them to our testimonial section, because it's a great way for new people who are considering doing business with Langlois Financial to get a real feel about what it's all about. Now, in closing, I'd like to thank you again for coming out tonight. I know you're busy, and I know it was hard to come here and dealing with traffic, and we really appreciate you spending some of your valuable time with us. I'd also like to say thank you again to our speaker, Fred. You're an awesome guy, and I've known you for a long time, and I really appreciate it. Special thank you to my staff for putting all this event together, and a special thank you to my wife, because as any of you have set up a wedding, she makes it look so easy, and she's always hiding in the background, doesn't want to take any credit for it, but she does an awful lot of work at setting it up. So thank you, Charmaine.